Hello and welcome to the Alaska Seminar Series. My name is Valerie Stimmick-Bailey and I run the Alaska-focused travel blog Valerie and Valise, as well as this YouTube channel of the same name. If you are watching this series, you may have found it through my page or maybe somewhere in the algorithm, and it means that you are looking for information about visiting Talkeetna, that's how you say it, Talkeetna, Alaska, during your Alaska trip, maybe in 2026 or 2027. I am delighted to have you here. I'm joined today by Marne Sheldon, and if you know anything about Talkeetna, which you may not, but if you do, you might recognize her last name. We might get into that a little bit later in the talk. She's going to teach us all about Talkeetna, and I'm really excited because if you have followed me for any amount of time, you know that I've done this series for years, but I have never had a video dedicated to Talkeetna. So this is a really exciting new chapter focusing exclusively on Talkeetna and all it has to offer. And definitely don't listen to anyone who says skip Talkeetna. The way this works is that it was pre-recorded. So members of my community have submitted questions in advance, and we'll cover those after Marne goes through a couple slides teaching us all about Talkeetna and what's new for 2026. If you have questions while you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, you can just post them in the comments, and I keep an eye on that all year long. So I will get you an answer. If I don't know it, I can reach out to Marne. She can reach out to other members of the chamber, and we'll get you an answer. If you're listening to the podcast, the audio only version, the best way to let me know your questions is to go to either Facebook or Instagram and send me a message or comment. So I'm Valerie and Valise on both of those platforms. You can just search and find me, send me a DM, comment on a post, let me know, and I will get you the answer that way. I think that just about covers the housekeeping. So I'm going to get out of the way and start talking about Talkeetna. So thank you so much for joining me, Marne. The floor is all yours.
My pleasure. Thanks, Valerie, for having me on. I am excited to talk to you all about Talkeetna. The picture that you're looking at right now is a beautiful view of the winter. I know a lot of people think we only visit Talkeetna in the summertime, but we're going to kind of reset that narrative and share with you that it is viable to visit Talkeetna almost year-round. So that was a winter view. Here is a summer view. So Talkeetna sits at the confluence of three rivers. Well, let me back up a minute. Sorry. We're going to talk about these things. First, Talkeetna is considered the gateway to Denali. The best views of the Alaska Range and the mountain, McKinley Denali, is from Talkeetna. It's so close to Anchorage. There's endless adventure, shopping, restaurants, beautiful things to do. There's endless reasons to be adding Talkeetna as a stop on your Alaska itinerary. Valerie said, don't miss it. I would agree, as does every single traveler that comes through. And those that miss it hear from friends and family saying, you didn't stop in Talkeetna? Bummer, total bummer. So we have this little thing we say in town, is the mountain out? Because the mountain is a prominent feature of our little village. So as I started, Talkeetna sits at the confluence of three major rivers. And they all comprise the big Susitna River that flows down out into Anchorage, out into Cook Inlet. There is one main street in Talkeetna. There is no stop lights. There is one stop sign that you will hit when you come into town. And when you trek down Main Street, you will be stopped because it dead ends at the river. As we saw in the previous slides here, real quick, just for fun, let's go back. There's where Main Street ends. And these people would have walked the Main Street, stopped at the river's edge to take a picture of the mountain, as we call it. There's also several places along the spur road to take in the view of the mountain. It pops out into view as you're driving down. There's accommodations that have that great view. So again, you will have to learn to ask locals, your restaurateurs, your shopkeepers, your hosts, is the mountain out? And they will tell you yes or no. Talkeetna is so easily accessible, even without a car. It's only 120 miles from Anchorage, and that's another thing that makes our village so unique. There are villages all throughout Alaska. It's a massive state, as you well know, but the fact that you can access Talkeetna on the road, by train or by air, in a really easy way without hours and hours of driving on a bus or in the train, as most other destinations have to do. So you'll take the Parks Highway or Route 3 all the way from Anchorage north. At mile 99, you'll turn and you'll drive 14 miles down the spur road. Again, like I said, at that stop sign, you'll take a left and you'll be on Main Street. That's it. It's easy to get there. The Alaska Railroad in the summertime runs daily service. In the wintertime, they have weekends services, and in the springtime, they offer more back and forth between Anchorage and Fairbanks, but you have to check that schedule. And of course, you can hop an air taxi out of Anchorage and fly. So many ways to get there, easily accessible. And there is an aerial view of beautiful downtown Talkeetna, like the one main street running left to right, and then the perpendicular other road is D as in Donald Street running down the way. But that's Talkeetna. That's beautiful downtown Talkeetna, as we say. It's full of restaurants, shops. I like to point out that the shops have a lot of locally made artifacts, art, and both by local, I personally am a native Alaskan. That means I am not Indigenous, but we also have a lot of Indigenous art by Alaskan natives. And a side note, an easy way to think of it, how do I get that right? The A is alphabetically first. That's your Alaska natives because they were here first. I am a native Alaskan. So that's a fun little aside. In the summertime, most of the venues on Main Street have live music. It's just something. We've got great artists from around the world that come to visit us and will play. So there's always music wafting down Main Street. And then in the summertime, we have a series called Live at 5, and it's a summer concert series every Friday from Memorial Day to Labor Day at 5 o'clock, hence Live at 5. And that's in the Village Park. And locals turn out, visitors turn out, bring your camp chair, bring your snacks, bring your drinks, your dinner, and enjoy 2 hours of live music. So we are talking about Main Street. There's lots to do there, not only on Main Street, but all around. So we'll continue on the Main Street vibe. Our town is full of history. And I say town, but it's actually a village. We are unincorporated. We have no mayor. Our seat of government is down in the Mat-Su borough. We have a borough mayor and a borough assembly. And our law enforcement is the Alaska State Troopers. So there's a little bit of how we are set up from a government standpoint. So there are some locals that make me laugh and say, we like it that way because there's no adult supervision. So take that for what you want. But we are well-mannered and we love having tourists come through. So learn our history. It has a deep, deep history that started with mining. There's a climbing aspect of Denali. There's climbing of Denali that is the takeoff point in Talkeetna. So all climbers that come to summit that mountain will start in Talkeetna. So we have the climbing history. We have the mining history. We have the Alaska Railroad history. And lastly, we have the flying history. So all of the routes that are flown around Denali were pioneered by, Valerie alluded to it earlier, my father-in-law, Don Sheldon, and several other local aviators. Also, Cliff Hudson was another very famous aviator. You want to stop at the Historical Society Museum, and all of that will come alive. And that is just a half a block off Main Street. I said you got to take to the air. That is the number one thing that we recommend our visitors do, to get in the air and see the mountain, see Denali, see the Alaska Range. It is unreal. Nothing compares to it. And you realize how insignificant you are on this beautiful planet when you are flying next to peaks that are sheer granite that stand 9, 10, and 20,000 feet in the air. The other thing to do is get on the river. As I shared with you, we have the confluence of 3 rivers that make up Talkeetna. And there's several services that allow you to get on the river via jet boat or via rafts. And again, beautiful views of the mountain from the river. Learn about wildlife, learn about local history, Indigenous history from those tours. And there are a ton of trails in Talkeetna. You can hike them, you can bike them. You can rent bikes in beautiful downtown Talkeetna, anything from a regular old school bike to the new fancy e-bikes that everyone seems to be loving. You can hire guides. There's several guiding companies that will take you on those trails around Talkeetna. And we are very close to Denali State Park, not to be confused with the National Park. A side note, we are on the south side of the summit. Talkeetna is. Denali National Park is on the north side of the summit. Takes a lot longer to get there. And I hate to say it, but you don't get the beautiful views of the mountain from the national park. Those glorious mountain views that we shared in slide 1 and slide 2 that we might have to go back to are visible on the south side from Talkeetna. So don't be confused. So get into the state park, which has those same beautiful views, hire a guide. So shopping, walking, history, Restaurants, get in the air, get on the river, get on the trails. And there's some zip lining that can be done too. And there's dog sledding that can be done too. Oh my goodness. It's endless. You see, don't just come to Talkeetna for a night, stay several days. Huh. And that's one thing that we figure people miss out on. The biggest mistake is that you're not staying long enough. A lot of the commercial tours will come through for just a few hours, rush people through. And I talk to them, they're like, we have to leave already. I'm so sad. Yes, you should be sad. You want to stay longer. Others will only put them in Talkeetna for one night. It's okay, but you can see there is so much to do and see and participate in that you really want to stay 2 or 3 nights on your Talkeetna adventure. And here's a sample itinerary of what a 4-day could look like. That would be 2 nights. That should actually be 3 nights. So you decide, but please, please, please stay more than 1 night. Otherwise you miss the beauty and the vibe of the village of Talkeetna. So Valerie also asked me, what's new? Well, we are seeing winter tourism on the increase. So people have been told only come to Talkeetna May through September because that's when the cruise companies bring all of their passengers. But come different time of year, spring, winter, December, we have a fun festival I didn't put here on the slide called Winterfest, and we light the tree in the village park for the Christmas season. And we have a parade of lights, and we have the world-renowned Wilderness Woman competition and the Talkeetna Bachelor Ball, which sells out in minutes. And if you're curious about any of those, just do a Google search for the Wilderness Woman competition and the Talkeetna Bachelor Ball. They've been going on for 40 plus years and it's gaining steam. Tickets sell out in seconds. We're newly developed the Talkeetna Ice Festival the first weekend in February. We have ice blocks that come down. Amateurs, locals, visitors can get a piece of ice and learn from a professional how to carve it into a beautiful sculpture, and then it's judged. And then in addition to the ice carving, there's a bunch of fun community events, family friendly, to participate. It's a fun weekend. We have an USIC Classic ski race in March. There's fun for all ages. People dress up in costumes. There's various lengths of the race in which to participate. So that's something to check out as well. And then of course, summer is bustling. There's something going on every single night of the week in Talkeetna all summer long. And that usually starts about mid-May and will conclude about mid-September. And then October goes pretty quiet and we start to pick things up again in December for January and then through the spring. And you can check out the Talkeetna Chamber of Commerce website. There's a calendar with all sorts of events there. And another organization that does a fantastic job hosting all sorts of artist shows, local talent, is the Denali Arts Council, and they're housed in the Sheldon Community Arts Hangar. I like to tease, there's something going on every weekend. I need a part-time job to attend everything that's going on at the hangar. So check that out as well. And I think that concludes what I would like to share with you. I'd love to dive into question and answers and talk a little bit more of Talkeetna with Valerie leading the charge, asking me some questions.
Amazing. Thank you. That was so succinct, but jam-packed with information. And if you are listening to the audio only version, I would really highly recommend going to my YouTube channel and checking out the video. I was screenshotting the slides. So it's definitely something that you're going to need to not be multitasking, like focus, tune in, pay attention, because Talkeetna has a lot to offer. And it's really exciting to see that there are some winter activities. That's something that seems to be a theme, is that Alaskans are increasingly sharing their love of winter and being outside and enjoying all the winter has to offer with visitors, and visitors are responding by visiting more, which is great. So I do have some questions. I'm going to start. These were all submitted by the community. As a reminder, if you're listening or watching and you have a question, you can go to YouTube and you can post it in the comments. This is a fun one. We'll start off with a little softball. So Talkeetna, as an aside, so Anne has asked this question, where can we see the mayor? And the backstory is that I don't really know the backstory actually, but that there is a cat mayor, or was a cat who was mayor of Talkeetna. Can you tell us the backstory? Is that still a thing?
That makes me go, yes. So in the late 80s, the locals just decided that they were going to have Stubbs the cat be the mayor. And Stubbs lived at Nagley's General Store, the owners there, that was their cat. an orange tabby cat with, yes, a clipped tail, hence the name Stubbs. Stubbs lived on. He would roam Main Street. Everybody loved on him. Tourists would come to know him. He was written up in People magazine and the Today Show. So really got notoriety that, yes, our cat is a mare. And that's kind of tongue in cheek because, as I shared in my presentation, we really don't have a seat of government in Talkeetna. We are unincorporated, and our seat of government is down in the Mat-Su borough. So it's just a way of us saying, like, yep, we have a cat as a mayor. Well, as years progress and history moves forward, and we all know that cats don't live forever, Mayor Stubbs dies and new ownership changes at Nagley's store. And they bring in a cat they've named, no, not Denali, hold on. They bring in a cat named Denali. It's not an orange tabby cat, it's a Siamese cat. So Denali then was just anointed or just thrown in. We'll just say thrown in the mayoral spot because it was the cat of the owner of the Nagleys, the proprietor. So Denali was mayor. Denali had a short-lived life. Believe it or not, some people tried to take him out. This is a true story. He was shot and they had to spend big bucks trying to get Denali back to life. He almost died. Denali did die again a few years later because no cat lives forever, even though they do have 9 lives. Then after Denali's little sister Aurora had just been thrown into the mayorship. And so now Aurora is the mayor. But some locals this summer decided we didn't like this. They didn't like the fact that the proprietor of Nagley's just decides who's the mayor is going to be, because that's not how it originated with Stubbs. So a few locals took it upon themselves to have a vote for 2 dogs. And some of us are like, wait, we've gone from cats, now we have dogs. Why shouldn't we be a cat? It's our thing. But that was a fun way to do a fundraiser for the Talkeetna Historical Society. They're in need of, a new walkway for a handicap access. So these locals said, we're going to do a vote, and you can pay $1 for each vote, which means you can stuff the ballot, right? As many as you want, many dollars, many votes. But again, it's a cheeky fundraiser for the Talkeetna Historical Society. So the winner is Wendell, a big white, I think he's a Samoy or Mastiff or something. He's a huge white dog. And so I don't know, is he the official mayor or is he not the official mayor? Or do we have 2, a cat and a dog? That's the story. I'm not making any comments.
Oh, that is so tricky. I mean, I can see we all like to feel like we've elected our representatives in government. And so, you do want to have some democratic processes. But when it comes to literal cats and dogs, I think that the rules get a little bit blurry. Anyway, Anne, if you're visiting Talkeetna, I would say just say hi to any cats and dogs. I mean, check with their owners first, make sure it's okay to do so. But I feel like any of them could be running for mayor going forward.
You will see Wendell out all summer long. Wendell's owner is the owner of Mountain High Pizza Pie, and he's always around. And Denali still comes and goes on Main Street, sauntering down, but tends to like to hang out in South Alley versus Main Street. So, yeah.
All right. Okay, well, here's a more serious question. This is from Suzanne. She's asking about fishing. And I get this question a lot for people who want to go fishing I would say like in the Denali area. And so they often end up sort of looking at Talkeetna because the fishing options are a little different in Denali National Park and the Denali area versus a little bit further south. So what kind of fish do you get in the Talkeetna rivers? What are the options for fishing? Do they have any guided charters, guided tours, anything like that?
Great question. So fishing is an option to do while you are in Talkeetna. Fishing's a tough topic in Talkeetna. We used to see kings, we used to see reds, we used to see silvers, we used to see all the varieties, but just in the way the fish have gone and fishing itself has gone in the state, there's really not any king fishing showing up much anymore, but silvers and reds are still robust. And yes, you can hire a local guide to take you out fishing. If you were to catch a king, I believe, don't quote me on this, you'd have to look at the fishing regs. I believe it's still release, it's catch and release. But that starts mid to late June, runs through. But I'll tell you what, if you're a fly fisherman and you like those rainbows, world-class rainbows, catch and release, but it's the sport of it. And the rivers all up and down Talkeetna have amazing rainbows and also other fishing as well, the reds and the silvers coming in. And you can even catch locals at the end of Main Street. Well, visitors too. You can put a line in And this past summer, the fish seemed to be returning in quite healthy numbers. And there were a lot of locals down there at the end of July, beginning of August, fishing, just catching their
Cool.
daily catch. So yes, there are plenty of outfitters that you can register for, book a charter with. And as I was doing my presentation, I wasn't really putting businesses' names out there because there are several proprietors of each genre of your flight seeing, of your fishing, of your rafting, of your dog sledding. Go to our chamber website. It's talkeetnachamber.org, and you will see our memberships there. It's organized into, adventures and places to stay and restaurants, and just do your own research and figure out which company is the best for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. I was going to ask you, and obviously, if you are watching on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast, either the show notes or the video description will have a link to the Talkeetna Chamber as well, just to make it really easy. Follow-up question for me. If you arrive in Talkeetna, maybe you've got your RV, your fishing gear. Is there somewhere in town that you can buy your fishing license, or do you have to drive back out to the grocery store along the Parks Highway to get that license?
Great question. Everything is done online these days. So you can go to the Department of Fish and Game and get a digital virtual on your phone fishing license. So,
awesome. I did not know that. So that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you can just say, I want to fish today, and then you can get your license that day.
Yeah. And then you can, screenshot it and on your phone if Fish and Game comes by.
Nice. Yeah, there you have it. Here's another great question. This is from Cindy. Let's talk about, you said there were lots of trails near Talkeetna. I'll be honest, I don't know any of them. I know some of the ones in the state park, but not any of the ones near town. So do you have any in particular that you enjoy or that you recommend to a lot of visitors?
Oh, goodness. Yes. Let me start with the ones closest to downtown. So if you walk let me phrase it this way. Right behind the village park, there's a big parking lot. And that takes you over the railroad bridge, which spans the river. And then once you cross that, you are on a trail that goes for miles and miles and miles and miles. It's called the Chase Trail. And that is, you can bike it, you can walk it. You will have to move out of the way because the ATVers come by. There's a lot of people with their private cabins out there, so they access it that way. Once you get over the bridge, you can also take a veer off to, if I'm doing this, Looker's left, and get out on the river. So there's a trail that takes you out there as well. From downtown, you would go back up the hill to a road called Comsat Road. That's off the Spur Highway. It's about a mile out of town. And you would come to the XY Lake Trails or the Comsat Lake Trails. There's two ways we'd call them. Either one works. And there's miles, again, I don't have that exact number, but miles of loops, several loops that are all intertwined together that you can hike and bike. No motorized vehicles on those, but you can hike them, you can bike them. There's another trail set called Wigme Trail, a little further out of town that hooks up with those same kinds of trails, but goes further. That would be east and south. So there's quite a few trails in the Talkeetna area. And I'm talking summer, my brain's clicked into that. But those trails in the wintertime are groomed for skiing. They're groomed for skate skiing. They're groomed for classic skiing. And then there are other trails for fat tire biking in Talkeetna. So if you're familiar with the whole skiing thing, if it's a groomed for skate skiing, you don't have fat tire bikes on there. But there is a subset for the winter biking. And since we're talking winter biking, the trails, the river freezes over. There's your trail in the winter. Hop on and just go.
Nice. I don't think I knew that you could do that. I'm not a fat tire biking person, but if there's someone listening who is, they're like, perfect winter getaway.
Yes.
I did just check, and it looks like some of those trails, maybe not all of them, but some of them are on All Trails, which is a really handy database of trails. So that's a good way to do more research, Cindy, because that will also give you some information on like elevation gains and trail reports. I love that in the spring. I love checking like when locals are starting to get out and hit these trails and they're reporting the trail conditions, so you can get a sense of what they're like for that start of the season.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more question. And I actually know Kathy is an Alaskan local. So that's why she has a sort of like a little bit more quirky, specific question. I think she lives in Eagle River, which is where I grew up. That's how I think we've bonded over that on my Facebook page. She's asking, so they are traveling with their dogs, which I know a lot of people do. And obviously, if the mayor or one of the mayors is a canine, Talkeetna is a generally dog-friendly community. So that's good. But if you're there in the peak of summer, it's like hot by Talkeetna standards, and you want your dog to get a swim in, where is a good place to take your dog swimming? Because the rivers are not as great of an option because they do have spots where the current gets quite fast.
Right. Oh, goodness. Well, there's Christensen Lake, there's XY Lake. So Christensen Lake is accessed off of the Spur Road and Comsat Road. It's a big lake. There's a public area there that you can hang out and let your dog swim. XY Lake is also off Comsat Road, but you hit it first, and I alluded to that with all the trails. There's a series of lakes there. There's Whigney Lakes. There's lots of places that your dog can cool down. And also, when I was talking about the trails, if you were to go over the railroad bridge just past downtown Talkeetna and hit one of the sandbars, there is little tributaries that the river off of the Talkeetna River end up creating, and it is safe for dogs. There's all the locals bring their dogs over there too. So be it that part of the river, but not right at the end of Main Street where it's running fast and furious and your dog would get swept away.
Yeah, got it. That's very helpful. Thank you. And a little local insider knowledge there, which I love. So that's it. That's all I have for questions that were submitted in advance. For you viewers or listeners, if you have questions, I'll cover it one more time. If you're on YouTube, just put them in the comments. We'll make sure you get an answer. If you're listening, you're going to have to reach out to me on Instagram. The Talkeetna Chamber, do you have Instagram?
We have Facebook. We do not have Instagram.
Facebook. Okay, so Facebook is the place to find you. The other thing I was going to say, if you are watching on YouTube or if you're on your podcast player, just hit that show description or video description, and there's going to be a bunch more links. There's going to be a link to the Talkeetna Chamber. There'll be the links to some blog posts that I have written from my time visiting Talkeetna. I'm really excited. I'm going to be back there in March, so I'll have some new winter resources coming soon. That'll just give you additional information that will help you plan the rest of your trip if you need even more resources. I think that covers it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say if I may, there's like one or two things that's pinging my brain here. I just answered an email through the chamber this morning. The one thing to note, I did say you can come to Talkeetna without a car, right, on the train or via airplane. Everything is walkable when you are downtown. So if you're going to come without a vehicle, make sure that your accommodation is downtown Talkeetna. Yeah. And then if you book a tour, generally speaking, those businesses have shuttles and they will pick you up from your accommodation because there's really not taxi. There's no Uber. There's no Lyft. And some summers we have some locals go, hey, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to run a taxi service. Other summers they don't. So it's hit or miss. So just plan on no taxi service in Talkeetna. Everything's walkable when you are downtown. Book your stay at a resident downtown. Now, if you have a car, there are hundreds of great accommodations up and down the Spur Road where you can book a stay with. Some have great views of the mountain. So consider that as well. But without a car, stick to the downtown. If you have your own vehicle, anywhere goes, because then you're not beholden to the taxi services that we don't have.
You may or may not have, and you don't want to count on them and then not have them. That's great advice. Yeah, I've been in Talkeetna both with and without a car. I have stayed at the Talkeetna Alaskan Lodge without a car. I have done the hike up the hill. It is fine. I don't really recommend it. It's just, just stay down.
They also have a shuttle too, though. The Talkeetna Alaskan Lodge has a great shuttle, so they're running people back and forth. So
yeah, I think
you must have wanted to get your steps in that day.
Well, I think so. I was just like, why would that be? When I stayed with them without a car, it was 2021. I'll bet it wasn't running because of the pandemic.
There you go.
That's probably why. So that's great to know there is a shuttle. But if you do want to get your steps in, it's a nice walk. But
it is.
It's like a mile.
It's about a mile and a half from downtown. It's kind of my husband and I, it's our walk when we want to get out and do a quick, we'll walk up to the lodge and turn around and go back.
Nice. Okay, well, with that, I will wrap everything up, and I will just say one last time, thank you so much, Marne, for joining me and sharing all about Talkeetna.
Thank you, Valerie. It was a pleasure.